Okay, welcome back. This is Chapter 7. Chapter 7 is all about cost management. So it kind of reminds me of... oh, anyway. The idea is that, we did project scheduling, and so now money is the other big thing, right? Okay, so... let's go over the learning objectives as always. So here we go. Understand the importance of cost management. Explain the basic, project cost management principles, concepts, and terms. Describe the process for planning. Discuss different types of cost estimation and the methods for preparing them. Understand the process of determining a budget. Understand the benefits of earned value management. And describe how project management software can assist. Okay, so there's an opening case on page 264. You probably need to stop, pause the video, and read that. It's about this project called Surveyor Pro. And the idea is that it's supposed to be some sort of expert system and a database and some sort of handheld devices that you can go out. Before you dig in the ground, it'll tell you if there's water line there or something. And this guy who was a really good engineer went to a meeting and he found out he was basically out of his league. I mean, they were talking about earned value management and all these financial terms. And I mean, this guy has a degree in engineering and he spent a lot of time knowing how to do mechanical engineering things, but he didn't take any finance courses. So he didn't have a clue what the hell they were talking about. So yeah, okay, you're going to have to know a little bit about finance and accounting kind of things to be able to pull this thing off. Because most of the time, the approving official, even if it's an engineering firm, that's all you do is produce, whatever. Or you're a software firm, that's all you do is produce software. When you get to the point where you have to ask people for money and being able to track money, those people are probably not going to be computer scientist people. They're not going to be programmers. They're going to be business majors, right? You're going to hire a business major to run your business. You're going to hire programmers to do the programming part. And so you need to be able to talk their language. That's kind of the point. So they're interested in money, not really all that much the technology piece. And this guy lacked that financial background. So on page 264, they talk about the importance of cost management. First of all, it should be fairly obvious that I can't spend all of my clients' money nilly-willy. I mean, I really need to show that I'm a responsible adult and is going to take the thing seriously on how much money they give me and how I'm supposed to spend it. There's a thing here that says, the average cost overrun on a software project is 27%. And I wonder if that includes those things we talked about before, where you approve changes to the schedule and the estimate along the way. And so does that mean from the original? Or does that mean after all the rest of the things have been approved? They don't really go into any detail, do they? Okay. There's a term here that I've used, I haven't used, but I've heard it before, called a black swan. And the black swan is something that happens that's totally rare and totally unpredictable, and there was really, really no practical way for you to have predicted this in the past. In other words, it's not a matter of, you didn't consider contingency. No, this is out of the blue thing that couldn't possibly have had any way you could predict it happening. I mean, it could be something as weird as I'm working on this software project, and the company that I'm working with, partnering with, goes into bankruptcy. It's like, I had no idea. There's no way for me to know that this guy was going to have a break-in or lose this contract or go bankrupt or whatever it is. You really can't predict those kinds of things. So black swans are not typically held against you, so to speak. A prudent person could not have anticipated. Okay. They do talk about when those things do occur in a software project. Here's likely what the end is going to be. Cost runs of 200%. Ouch. And schedule overruns of 70%. Ouch. Yeah, I just doubled, or more. Actually, 100% overrun would be double, right? I'm not sure how they calculate that. Anyway, a heck of a lot of cost increases in these things. And as you can probably imagine, the larger the project and the more complex the project, the more likely you're going to have tremendous impacts. I mean, if the project is relatively small, you can probably anticipate all the things you need, and your cost overruns are not going to be that great. But if you have a monstrously huge project, then the idea is, and maybe this is just an excuse, but the idea is, oh, well, that's just too big. So, I just made some estimates, and that's really bad, okay? You can't just make guesstimates just because the project is big. Oh, well, the project's big, so our numbers are crap. No, I'm sorry. That's just not the way it works. You can't use that as an excuse. Just because the project is big, I don't have to put any effort into it. So, yes, the more complex the project, the more likely you are to have overruns, but that doesn't absolve you of responsibility of coming up with a good budget. Can't throw your hands in the air. So, what is cost? Wow. Okay, I tell you, we're talking finance terms now. So, on page 265, they give a definition. And their definition is, it's absolutely 100% correct. But, a resource given up in exchange for achieving an objective. Okay. But, in our world, cost is going to be money, okay? Yes, in theory, cost could include materials and people's time and all sorts of other things other than money. But in reality, when you really get down to it, we're talking money, okay? So it's not just resources that are given up. It's almost always money. Okay. So, once again, just to drive home the point, there are some false impressions about dealing with IT projects. IT projects are notoriously hard to manage, both schedule and cost. And so a lot of people just assume that all IT project cost estimates are just guesses, so let's don't bother with putting any effort into this. Really? It's a new technology, so we don't really know how much it'll cost. Really? I mean, to tell you the truth, that just reflects on you, okay? You can't use that as an excuse. If you miss an estimate, it's on you, okay? You can't go back to, well, it's an IT project, what do you expect? That's not going to cut it. Okay. So, on page 266, they talk about, project cost management. And, the book always starts with this, right? Here's all the steps we're going to go through to do our cost management pieces. And every chapter from now to the end of the book are going to look almost always like this chart here. So let's just go through what these things mean. We're going to go in a little bit more details in a minute, but the planning part. So in the planning part, you're going to be producing, this is where the cost plan management, this is where you're going to be finding out, like doing some research in the organization to find out, like getting a hold of all the policies and procedures and documentation. For example, one of the most important part about cost management is, what is the procedure you use to acquire the funds? Are they going to give you a lump sum? Let's say this new software project is going to cost $1 million. Are they going to give you $1 million up front and you put it in the bank, so to speak? Or are they going to say, well, okay, it's approved, but we're going to give you $100,000 this month, and then $100,000 the next month, and $100,000, how will they do it? How do you ask for it? How is it doled out? You need to kind of know these things, because are you going to be, if they gave it to you lump sum, well, then you could kind of be fast and loose with, month-to-month expenditures. If, on the other hand, they're going to dole out the money month by month, well, then I can't bank time in February to move it over to March, kind of a thing. Okay, so you need to know how your organization does things. Estimating part. So getting the estimates for the cost of those resources. And there's lots of techniques we'll talk about on how that's done. But again, this is not an estimating course, okay? Just like before we were talking about, I'm not going to turn you into an estimator when it comes to the schedule. I'm also not going to turn you into an estimator with regard to the budget. But since software projects are almost usually, I don't know, I'm making this number up, but 75% or more is labor costs. So I know how much I'm paying these guys, and I know how long they're going to run, because we've already figured that part out in the last chapter. So now I just need to figure out, okay, that's going to take 4 people to be able to do that in 4 weeks of time. So 4 weeks times whatever the salary is, boom, I know what the cost. So you're pretty much, once you've got the schedule done, you're pretty much on the way to a cost estimate for IT projects, because there's not normally that much material associated with it. I mean, yeah, you got to buy a server or something like that, but those costs are incredibly easy to come across. So it's not as difficult as it sounds. Okay, we'll get into a little bit more detail on how you can come across techniques for determining how long it takes to do something. And then determining the budget. Okay, so this is really allocating the resources. I mean, you may have got the resource from somebody else. Now it's time for you to allocate the resource to make it happen. And then we're talking about, the baseline and updates and all the rest of that stuff. In other words, not only do I have my budget now, I need to track it all. I need to be able to say, okay, here's the baseline, and here's every single change we've made where it's had a positive or negative effect on the budget. And then the last one is the one on monitoring and controlling. And that's all about the work performance piece, right? It's all about, okay, I said we're going to have 6 people working on this, and now we only have 4. Dang, okay, so we're going to have to, borrow from over here or scoot the timeline over or do something to make up the difference. So you're going to be doing cost forecasts. If you had to go to overtime to make up for this difference, how's that going to do on your cost overruns? I mean, are you going to blow your budget completely? That kind of thing. So it's normal stuff. Work performance, change requests, updating the plans as things happen. You may have planned for an entire scenario, but there's an update that something happened, some change request happened where you had basically a week that you couldn't do anything because you were waiting for a very critical decision or something. And so you pushed everything over, but then you realize, Bob over here has got vacation scheduled, and man, that really messed me up. So you're probably going to have to redo your plans every time you have a change request. Okay. So that's kind of this thing in a nutshell. On page 266, they talk about basic principles of cost management. Okay. So basic accounting and finance principles? Yeah. So let me just ask you one more time. If you were to put had a room full of IT folks and a room full of finance folks, okay, in the same room, and you were talking IT, clearly the IT folks are gonna mop the floor with the budget folks, right? Because they know what the hell they're talking about. But if the roles were reversed, you got a handful of IT folks, a handful of budget folks, and the topic is something related to finance and accounting, where they gotta mop the floor with the IT folks, right? Okay. So you don't want to be outgunned. When you go ask for money, and they say, "Well, sure, we'll do this, but we're going to do this, and this," and you're gonna say, "Okay." Well, you kind of need to know what the hell they're talking about. So yeah, you're gonna have to be up to speed. You don't want to be outgunned when you're negotiating for money. Okay, so here's some terms. The first one is fairly obvious, and that's the one called profit. Well, so profit is the difference between how much money you got in and how much money you spent to get there. Okay, it's not complicated. So it's revenue minus expenditures. So it's what I have. And hey, and this is no different than you at home. Okay, so I get $1,000 a month, and after I pay my bills, I have $900 worth of bills every month. So therefore, I have $100 left over. That's what profit is. It's the amount of money left over after you've paid all your bills. Okay. Profit margin. Okay, this is just math. It's basically the ratio of the profits to revenue. So if I had if $100 generated $2 of profit, that would be 2 over 100 is 2%. My profit margin is 2%. Okay, this is a good place to stop for the 15-minute mark. We'll pick this thing up again in just a few.